What's good, y'all? It's fucking Killzo. Today I'm gonna be fucking ranking a bunch of drugs, and these drugs include every single one I have tried. Um, being from caffeine all the way to fucking fentanyl. So, basically the way this works is we've got a basic tier list. S for special, meaning drugs that are not too bad for you, and I have a good experience and don't have that many bad effects afterwards, and are just in general a good experience. A tier, I mean, like, yeah, you can have some good experiences here and there, but they're not as good as us. B, like, you can use them, have some fun, but in general, they're going to be a little more problematic or not as fun, have some more negative side effects. For example, alcohol. That's more of like, yeah, it's got some goods to it, but you're going to have a hangover, shit like that. And then you kind of get the trend all the way going to F to where shit just like isn't even really recreational at that point. So let's start off. Alcohol. I say alcohol, it's like good to have on occasions, kind of gets you into a more socialish mood. You don't hesitate as much to talk about things, you speak the truth. Can be like a little intense though if you drink too much, so you don't want to overdo it. And that's like one of the things that's important about uh alcohol. And then the hangover just kind of sucks ass. So I put it at a B, higher up in the B tier. Um, Next up we have Xanax. Now you see Xanax, it's gonna make you really out of it. You're gonna be loopy as fuck. You're gonna be retarded. You're gonna be bar tired. That's what they call the people on the Xans. And you might not have as much of a sickened hangover. Like, you're not gonna throw up and shit as much, but you might be so zombified the next day after being an actual zombie the day before while you on that shit. But it's like a good, nice, relaxed vibe if you do the right amount. So I say Xanax is like a mid A tier. Better than alcohol, but there are some things that are better than that. Next up, weed. Don't gotta say much about this. Weed just kind of is there all around anytime you need it. Good in pretty much every situation. Kind of just like the way to go. So we're gonna put that in S tier. Um, Whippets. Now, Whippets, you see, these motherfuckers, they don't last that long and they fuck up your blood supply. Like your B12, vitamin deficiency, that kind of shit. And you're gonna have to take a lot of supplements. You can't do it that often. They say do more once and then wait longer, than spread out less over time. But like, they're not that good alone. You really want to combine them with something, unless you're gonna be doing like 50 at once. Like, so, and even then, it doesn't last that long. So I say Whippets. I mean, they're good to do on other drugs, but I say they'd probably B tier. So next up, fucking Percs, the Fetty Percs. Like half, pretty much every, I don't see script Percs these days. All them on the streets, like, it's all fucking fentanyl. So like, we're just gonna count that as fentanyl. And like, bro, yeah, that shit feel good as hell. It's like, it's a fucking ass high in the end. Like, the withdrawals, nah, like, you just can't fuck with it. And it's just like, you slump. Like, it's not even a social drug at that point. You're just like, it's basically heroin. I've never done heroin, but I feel like this is probably as closest to heroin I've ever done. And that is not a fun vibe because it gets out of control way too fast. So I would put fucking Percs in E tier. And we're of course talking about fentanyl. However, that's different than fucking OxyContin. Now, OxyContin is like actual oxycodone, not the fucking fentanyl shit. But I mean, of course it can come in that, but I mean, it's not even prescribed these days. But the one time I managed to do it, bro, like, I got it from a script from some old person of a friend that like, I think it was her grandma that like still had a script from a long time ago. Like, bro, we stole that shit. That shit, bro, like, it's a good vibe, but it's also really addictive. But you're not gonna like fucking, you could still function on it, like, you're gonna like, I mean, if you take too much, you're not, but like, And I say it's like more euphoric too. So I say I put this. I mean, it's just so fucking addictive and dangerous. Like it leads to fucking usage of other drugs. So put it in the D tier. Um, lean, bro. Now lean is a vibe, but here's the thing about lean. It's literally just liquid oxys. Like this shit, nah. You know what I'm saying? Like liquid heroin, whatever you want to call it. It's not any better than this. And it's a lot more like people who drink it just seem cooler than people who would pop oxys or perks, you know, like it's the status, you know, something like that about it. And it's just like, and it tastes good when you mix it with the soda and the jollies too, especially like Fanta, bro. Like my times with lean, dumb shit's crazy. The promethazine too, because you be like hallucinating. It's like a cool combo drug of codeine, promethazine. I mean, of course, you can get plain just codeine, but in general, we're talking about the lean concoction with both. And I say because that kind of two drugs work together to counteract each other, it's still more addictive than like some other things, but it's not as bad of a feeling in terms of like the withdrawal as oxy. So I'd say it's a C tier. Next up, we're going to do DMT. Now, DMT, bro, this ain't something you just do like every now and then. You know, you do it like when you are in the mindset, like once, maybe every now and then. And it's a great experience. Mind opening. I've only done it twice, but like, it's like if a whole acid trip that was like extremely intense acid trip was condensed into like 10 minutes, like on fast forward. Like that shit crazy, bro. I mean, it's not really gonna kill you. You're gonna feel like you're dying, maybe, yeah, but it's not like dysphoric or anything. It's just like intense. But I put it in S tier for sure. Um so that brings us to acid. Like acid's like probably, now the thing about acid is it lasts a bit too long sometimes. So it's not always that convenient and not the best drug to do, but it's probably one of my personal favorites. So we're gonna just put it in between S and A because of that. Um but shrooms on the other hand are like a more tolerable version of acid. So that shit would be probably S. Yeah, that's what I'm thinking. That's how I feel. Now, ecstasy, Molly, MDMA, whatever the fuck you want to call it. This shit, bro, this is a vibe. But it can get out of hand easily. And it can be kind of dangerous. But not as dangerous as like cocaine or things. But it's basically a like substituted amphetamine or some shit. Because MDMA stands for methylene dioxy methamphetamine, or 3,4-methylene dioxy methamphetamine, whatever the little numbers and shit. Like, I don't know all that, but like if you do it occasionally in moderation, it can be a good drug. And the feeling is just like none other. I mean, maybe some other pathogens, but like ecstasy is like the only drug on this entire list that has those effects. I mean, nutmeg maybe to some small extent, but not really. Um, Valium. Valium, you know, it's kind of just like Xans, but more like they're really similar, honestly. Like I can't really describe a good difference between them, but I say like other than like the time differences and like how fast it comes on, like how fast it acts, the vibe is like if you just gave someone Xanax and it was Valium actually, but told them it was Xanax, like they would not know the difference. You know that happens with like research chemicals and stuff too. Valium's a lot harder to find though, at least for me. So it's not as convenient as Xanax. However, if you do find it, it's usually less likely to be laced than Xanax. So just because of how hard it is to find and maybe it being a little bit better quality, I'd say it would be above Xanax, but like only in the same tier, not in a new tier, like that. So ketamine, bro, now ketamine is some shit. Ketamine is the shit. I say it's like tied with acid. Only thing is it's a little more dangerous. Like you can overdose on acid and be safe physically. In terms of comparison to ketamine, if you take a little bit too much, and it's like pretty high doses though, like past a K-hole for sure, not just what people do recreationally, then you can fucking pass out because it's a tranquilizer or dissociative anesthetic they use in surgeries, veterinaries, like things like that. Um, but I put it tied with fucking acid, but below shrooms and Xanax. So next up, let's talk about ketamine's little friend, DXM. DXM. Now, DXM is some bullshit, honestly, but it's a good time when, you just have no fucking money, can't do any other drug of any sorts. Do that shit all the time when I had none. Go steal that shit from the corner store, whatever, bruh. Robitussin, NyQuil, Delsum. I mean, if you really want to do these things called like Robotabs. But DXM, honestly, like, if you're getting like a pure product that's not like with all the other shit, guaifenesin, acetaminophen, chlorpheniramine, like those kinds of things, then it's just gonna be pretty damaging to your mind. And I'd say it's a little worse to your mind than ketamine and acid, and probably tied with Xanax. However, DXM is just like one of those things that you kind of can get lost in way more. So, I mean, I don't know. I'd say it's tied with Xanax, but a little less. So, I'm going to put it right here in between fucking A and B. All right. Next up, Gabapentin. Now, Gabapentin is like a nice drug. It's a nice vibe. It kind of feels like being cross-faded a little bit. But the thing is, it's not like you just take it. You have to like take soda or fatty foods with it to increase the bioavailability. And you have to do it this staggering method where it's like, okay, take 600 milligrams. All right, wait 30 minutes, take another 600. And you keep doing that process for like several hours until you've consumed a high enough dose. And then eventually, like an hour or 2 hours after your last dose, you'll be fucking the feeling. So it's like a hard high to achieve, but it's a very easy and accessible drug. Like, it's really not that hard to get prescribed. It's not a controlled substance, but you can definitely get psychoactive effects from it. And I'd say just like due to it being harder to like get effects from, and not the effects not being that worth it, like I'd say probably about C, because lean is kind of like that as well. Like the effects, I say lean is a lot more powerful in terms of its effects, but again, it's really hard to acquire, and the work you have to do to get high from it, like because lean is so expensive. Gabapentin, you have to like do it so much. You know what I'm saying? Like things like that. So next up, if we're gonna talk about fucking Benadryl, there's really not much to say about this other than it's a poison and it should not be used recreationally. So this is what I'm talking about. Like, honestly, it's going to be at the very bottom. There's only like a couple things as bad as this that I've done. So, Bupropion. Wellbutrin, whatever. This shit is technically like a substituted cathinone or some shit. I don't even know. Which is similar to bath salts, but the effects aren't exactly the same, but chemically it's related. And this shit, people snort up. I've done it before. Now, it's a stimulant type high, but like, excuse me, I'm high as fuck. Stimulant type high, but like, if stimulant a high had also some delirium effects similar to Benadryl. And the anxiety is just unreal. So it's kind of like bath salts in a state when you do enough of it. So I wouldn't say it's that fun, but it's still a little bit better than Benadryl. Yeah. Then the next thing similar to that, we're going to talk about Nutmeg. Now, nutmeg gives you a similar high to weed, but at the same time, also some delirium effects. So I don't really fuck with that, and I don't think many people do, or if they do, they don't care about themselves at all. I say this shit isn't as bad as Benadryl, but worse than fucking Wellbutrin, or Bupropion, whatever you want to call it. And now we're gonna get to one of the 3 last fucking anticholinergic or delirium substances on here, hydroxyzine, which honestly isn't as bad on the dysphoria, so I'd say it would probably be ahead of all of these. But let's take a look at the next one, Chlorpheniramine. Now this is something no one really gets them alone to get the effect, but there's a type of DXM called triple C's, and the purple ones have a drug called chlorpheniramine, which is very similar to diphenhydramine, which is what is in Benadryl. And it's honestly worse than Benadryl. Next up, Adderall. Now, Adderall, here's the thing about Adderall. It's a nice drug when used right. However, if you take too much, you're going to be up nights on end like you've done some lines of speed or some shit. So, again, I say, in a sense, what you put in to get it might not always be worth it. Like, I don't know, it's not too good of a drug, but it can be in times. I'd say it gives me the jitters the most of any stimulant other than fucking meth. So because of that, I'm gonna have to put it into C category, but there is some nice euphoria. So that's that. Vyvanse, similar to Adderall, instead of being amphetamine, it's lisdexamfetamine. Now this one doesn't give me as much like jitteriness, and I get a little more euphoria from Vyvanse. So I say it's a fucking B tier. Now, related to that is fucking Ritalin. Now, Ritalin's a little different. This shit's more like, honestly, it feels more like Coke, whereas like Adderall and Vyvanse feel more like meth. I don't know. That's just something I've noticed over the course of all the types of drugs I've done. Now, Coke is a lot different than meth because it's not, or like, it's a lot different than amphetamines in general. It's a different class, first off, and second off, you don't fucking stay up as long. I mean, obviously you can if you do enough, but it has less dysphoria and less hallucinations due to psychosis. It's a little milder, but it also works on the fucking receptors differently, and that's kind of what changes the way, like, they both affect the same receptors but in different ways. Now, because of this, Ritalin, I'd say, is more A/B, but that's just me personally. Now, cocaine, because of how fucked up it is, like, it's so addictive and it can fucking destroy your heart, your body in general, and just like, you can just die straight off it from having a heart attack or some shit, bro. Like, then I'd say it's got to be a little less than Ritalin, but that's debatable. I say B or C, somewhere in between, you know. Now, Kratom, I never really felt shit from this, but I know people who do, but it's also been a little bit of a problem. I put it at D because it's not too interesting of a drug, honestly, but I know it can be helpful for other people. Doxy. So this is also similar. It's a deliriant similar to chlorpheniramine and Benadryl, but it's not got as much dysphoria to it. It's more cozy. I mean, it's not really euphoric, but it's not dysphoric. It's like, I'd say similar to Klonopin, which we'll get to in a second. So because of that, it's actually very similarly related to these two, but it actually feels a lot different. And I would put it actually around the fucking Xanax, a bit lower than Xanax, because you kind of pass out. It really sedates you way more than fucking Xanax would. and it's over the counter, B tier. So Klonopin, that's the thing. Klonopin, I'd say, is similar to Doxy, but like the withdrawals, bruh, and the hangover are way worse. So, nah, like K-pins were the shit. I'll put them at fucking C tier as well. Meth, I've only done this shit twice, and I will not do that shit. It feels good temporarily, but then it's just like way too stressful, you know? It's like the devil, whereas cocaine's like the path to hell. So, you know, again, it's gonna match with fentanyl. Carisoprodol. That shit just like a low key version of Xans, but it also feels a little bit like a Perc or opiate. So, I don't know. Honestly, I kind of fuck with muscle relaxers. I'll put that at A tier. Tramadol honestly isn't that interesting. You don't feel that much shit from it. When you do, it's kind of irritating. You might feel nauseous more than on normal other opiates. So that shit I put in D tier along with Kratom. Hydros. Now honestly, hydros of all fucking opioids, better than codeine. Hydros are better than oxys, better than percs, better than fucking tramadol, better than Fetty. Like, literally, all this shit. They're the best of them all. Now, I wouldn't say they're better than fucking, like, alcohol and Whippets and Vyvanse and Doxy, but they're actually going to get in the B, you know? A little bit above lean. Because lean is, like, the second best of opioids. Now, next up, we got Loperamide. Now, this shit, bro, like, honestly, it's not really a drug, but it's an opioid that will get you somewhat high if you take fucking omeprazole or some sort of antacid and pepper with it, because it kind of, like, loosens up the blood-brain barrier to allow the antidiarrheal agent to also affect the opioid receptors in your brain. I'm not exactly sure, but I did that a couple times, like for withdrawals, and it helped, but it doesn't really give you that much of an intoxication feeling. So because of that, I mean, it's kind of a nice calm little feeling. I put it along with tramadol and kratom. Nicotine, honestly, is great every day, but it also fucking sucks every day and is addictive as hell. Shouldn't have ever started smoking nicotine, but hey, like, I'm hooked on that shit, so kind of just makes my life worse. So we're gonna put that on E tier. Sorry, nicotine. Caffeine, on the other hand, that shit helps me wake up, for real, for real. So we're gonna put that in A tier. Dilaudid. This is hydromorphone, similar to hydrocodone. Honestly, it's like if hydromorphone is like, honestly, if just hydrocodone was shitty in terms of the itch. Like, it's so itchy compared, like, to the other ones. So because of that, it goes in between fucking, like, C and D. Because, like, some of the analgesia counteracts that. But, like, hey, whatever. Crack, literally meth, but worse. Same explanation I have as meth, but worse. So that just immediately gets an E. Not as bad as some delirious, though. Pseudoephedrine, now that's, like, interesting because, like, it's kind of like if Adderall had a baby, you know? Because Adderall is already meth's baby. So it's like the baby. But pseudo is actually used to make meth. But if you take enough, you can get a little stimulant high from it. It's nice every now and then, I say. It's like, but it's not really worth it, and it's really hard to get these days because they put it behind the counter. So if you're trying to get high off it, it's really not worth the investment. I'll put it in between D and E. So that honestly completes the tier list. So you can look that shit over. Let me know what y'all think, honestly, about this stuff, and if there's drugs you haven't done. I know there's definitely quite a few that I haven't done, such as 2CB, M-Bomb, fucking salvia, lots of other shit that's like research chemicals like Ativan, halcyon, other benzos. Haven't ever tried barbiturates, GHB, or any of that shit, but like, I'm not trying to encourage anyone to use drugs or encourage myself to use them, but it's interesting to compare shit like this. But you can see here, this honestly my like rankings of them in the tier. So hopefully y'all enjoyed this shit. Let me know again what y'all think and make sure to like and subscribe because I appreciate the support. Trying to grow this channel and I got more shit coming soon. Peace out, y'all.